Hey folks, it's Maxwell here and welcome to a brand new TW9 video. You're here for our next pay-per-view in AEW for the Sickos series. It's the second one we've got, which is Full Gear. Obviously there's no Full Gear title eliminator tournament. There's no point when you get the Continental Classic right behind it. But I think we've brought up to these matches pretty good. And it's certainly going to usher us into a very good period of time when we start the Continental Classic this week on Dynamite. I don't want to give too much away, but there is quite a good bit that happens here. It's only 17 segments and 11 of those are matches, but they kind of give an idea of where we're going forward. So I don't even want to blather on too much. Let's get straight into it. Let's tell the stories for the Sickos. Here is Full Gear. So we're in the American Airlines Arena, the home of the Miami Heat, and we have 16,500 in attendance. It must be said, I haven't put in any like live bands or anything. Because it's I'm not going to get anywhere close to 100, I didn't feel like it was anything we really needed to go for at this moment in time and waste money. So we'll worry about that down the line. So we start the show and it is an entrance for Jon Moxley. It gets the crowd going because obviously even though he's a heel, him coming through the crowd just gets everybody going mental. It gives us actually a fairly strong segment at 71, so that's pretty good. Obviously the pressure will be 90% on the main event, but that segment gives us a good start. Which means we're starting off with Samoa Joe versus Jon Moxley. And this one had good heat and a decent wrestling match. It was my wild brawl of the night. And Jon Moxley defeats Samoa Joe in 9:44 with the paradigm shift after interference from Marina Shafir, of course, Jon Moxley's manager. It continues the storyline of Bryan's final run. It's a 67 segment, pretty solid stuff for these two. Moxley was 72, 57 for Joe, who was off his game, but he did benefit from being in amazing form. I just feel Mox is someone we still need to keep extremely strong. Next up was about that had some good wrestling and decent reaction from the crowd. Representing the Blackpool Combat Club was Pac, but he loses in this instance to Wheeler Yuta, who wins in 13:57 by pinfall via the most devastating move in sports entertainment. It is, of course, the surprise roll-up. These two really brought it today, a 63 and a 69 performance, so they obviously had a good style match-up. 66, as I say, wrestling's good. 69 overall, really, really good for Yuta. And yeah, he gets a little bit of revenge on the bastard Pac. So 1-1 for the BCC so far. Our third contest of the evening was a decent match-up that saw Mariah May defeat Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm in 14:30 when Mariah pinned Mina with using the ropes for leverage. It gave her her fourth defence of the women's title, and in this matchup you can see that Toni Storm way ahead in terms of performance of 65. It was probably what the storyline kind of needed, a really good matchup with them. I wanted to keep my part as long as possible. 61's pretty good. But yeah, I would imagine we may move into Mariah versus Toni 1-on-1 rematch, but you've obviously still got that Mina Shirakawa factor in there. But Mariah is victorious on this day. It is like an AEW pay-per-view, the matches just keep coming. Next up, it was about that had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. The Kings of the Black Throne defeat the Young Bucks in 14:18 when Malachi Black pinned Matthew Jackson with a Dante's Inferno. This gave them their third defence of the AEW World Tag titles, and Nicholas Jackson carried the match in terms of ring-by-ring performance. 71 for the wrestling, a 72 overall. I just felt in this instance, it gets the Bucks their rematch, they lose that. Malachi needed momentum, that makes him look $1,000,000, and we can both put them onto different programs going forward. But good stuff there in the tag division. These are like main events in a normal Dynamite, which is good. Next up, decent matchup. Ricochet gets some revenge by defeating Powerhouse Hobbs in 9:08 with a fast roll-up. So the idea of this one was basically Hobbs absolutely dominates it, and then Ricochet manages to get a surprise win out of nowhere to the shock of the crowd. A 65 overall, 75 for Ricochet, and a 52 for Powerhouse Hobbs. However, after the match, we have two segments here. The first one we see, obviously Hobbs is frustrated, MVP comes in, and out of nowhere Bobby Lashley is making his AEW debut, and he joins in with MVP and Powerhouse Hobbs. You could say it is the Hurt Syndicate, and they are beating down Ricochet. They leave him in a complete mess and head to the back. That gets a 50 for the segment. The second part of the angle, we basically see Ricochet getting stretchered to the back. He is okay, But Will Ospreay could obviously come down because he was getting ready for his match, which is next. That's how you avoid him being there. And he's just basically saying, his head's a bit of a pickle, he's all over the place because his friend's just been beaten up by the Hurt Business. You can see he's got a bit of Hurt Syndicate, sorry. He's got a bit of frustration. So we've got 3 people in the Hurt Syndicate so far. I have a few ideas I want to go with it, and I'm intrigued to see how that happens over the next few months. But yeah, 52 for the segment. The storyline advances. Bobby Lashley debuts a badass gimmick, which got adequate, and we'll hear more from MVP later in the show. But we move on to that international match, and it flopped. What? About the good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Will Ospreay defeats Konosuke Takeshita in 15:07 with the Stormbreaker. Obviously, I made it the Steal the Show match. Ospreay gets his 6th defence, but yeah, they don't click. The storyline gains heat from it, but obviously that takes a lot off the match, which probably would have been into the 70s, but a 65 for Ospreay, 65 for the match, and a 62 for the overall segment. So yeah, that's gutting. I'm taping this before Wrestle Dream, so yeah, let's hope that triple threat match doesn't end up that way. I'm pretty sure they had a match-up, actually, I'm forgetting, which was really good, so, oh well. I've had a very poor roll with the RNG. That's a shame. But then catch Renee Paquette, she's backstage with Wheeler Yuta. He's basically saying, oh, it's a good victory, but tonight's all about making sure that Bryan Danielson has a good, successful title defence over Claudio Castagnoli. So just him weighing in his 2 cents for the main event. He says he'll be vigilant, he'll be around, because he knows the BCC will be trying to get involved. And that's a 54. We then moved on to the Continental Championship match, and it was a good match that saw Okada defeat Orange Cassidy in 16:46 with a Rainmaker, and that gives him his 8th defence of the Continental Championship. I'm loving the fact that I can get away with not putting that into a storyline and still getting a good rating for it, so a 74. I think it was a wee bit last minute addition just to get Okada on the show, but it confirms at least the Continental Classic. One man in the tournament will be Kazuchika Okada. I don't even know the brackets at the moment, I'm just announcing people and I'll figure out who we're going for there. I couldn't even tell what my main event is for World's End yet, so yeah, there's a lot to be decided after this episode. We had a segment here which saw Mercedes have an over-the-top entrance like she did at All In, and basically she just looks $1,000,000 and Camille just looks completely intimidating. That was a 51 for the segment. And the match itself had good heat and decent wrestling, and Athena defeats Mercedes Mone in 11:49 with a top rope stunner. This match was designed to tell a specific story. It was to be a storytelling matchup. During the match, we had Camille come in and attack Athena, and we had Billy Starks come in and attack Mercedes. Athena wins the TBS Championship. Now that probably is mental, but let me explain. There's a lot of reasons why I've done this. Athena's popularity is probably on par, if not just under Mercedes. Mercedes has creative control. She was not happy to drop the title here. And I felt like, well, if she's not going to drop it to Athena, who's probably going to be more happy to drop it down the line, then you're getting to a stage where she's too big for the title. So if I got the title off her ASAP, you can move her towards the world picture. And we did have to even keep her strong here, just to make sure she would job to Athena happily. So yeah, that was my thinking behind it. It's a shame we ruined Athena's ROH World title run, because we need to call her up to the main roster, although I still haven't done that yet. So it'll be interesting to see how it shows with my TBS champion not actually on my roster. Although, to be fair, if it keeps her as TBS champion and she's still in ROH, I can keep her there till she drops that belt. But yeah, 52 overall, not fantastic. But as I say, there was a few factors I felt that caused that. You lose a few points for storytelling, you lose a few points for keeping Mercedes strong. But I think, well, both of them are technically heels in this as well. And negative impact to the road agents notes, that's fine. But aye, Mercedes, you're just going to keep... It's just going to cause problems, I think, in that position. Next up, we had the TNT Championship on the line. It had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd as Daniel Garcia defeats Nigel McGuinness in 12:21 with a sharpshooter submission victory, giving Garcia his 5th defence of the TNT Championship. I felt with this one it was a good opportunity to get Nigel on pay-per-view, a good opportunity to see if he could still hang with some of the younger talent, and I think you can see with 69 and 65 in terms of in-ring from each guy. Yeah, Nigel could. So I think we'll be testing Nigel against higher opponents in terms of like maybe even a Joe or Moxley and all that down the line. And obviously keep him still doing his commentator duties. Although to be fair, he could put Riccaboni in that, and then he could put Nigel as a full-time active competitor. But 68 overall, pretty solid stuff. Then had some words backstage from MVP, and he just says he noticed obviously that Will Ospreay, wasn't happy with what happened with Ricochet. It's just one of those things, and he's got two things that he wants to say. One, he can confirm that Bobby Lashley will be entering the Continental Classic, so you're going to get Bobby Lashley against some big opponents very early doors. And he says, Ospreay, if you're frustrated, Lashley ain't going to fight you because he's in the Continental Classic. You're not in the Continental Classic. So why don't you take it up with our head of the complaints department? And you can see them on Dynamite on Wednesday night. So setting up for Will Ospreay versus the head of the complaints department. I think we know who that is. And that's a 64 rated segment. Next up was the matchup between Darby Allin and Adam Page. Hangman obviously blames Darby for basically getting in the way of Hangman becoming #1 contender. It should have been him versus Bryan, and he wants to get some revenge. This one had great wrestling and good heat, and Darby Allin defeats Adam Page in 13:44 by pinfall with the coffin drop. A 73, a 56, and a 71. The Bryan's final on the storyline has gained heat, because these are obviously interlinked with that one. Hangman with a very impressive 78, but it's Darby Allin that's going to cause more frustration for Hangman Adam Page. Segment was penalised due to Bryan's final run having low heat. I'm hoping that match has boosted it for the main event. I'm dreading to see how this goes. In a superb wrestling match with good heat, Claudio Castagnoli has defeated Bryan Danielson in 27 and 49 by pinfall with a neutralizer following botched interference from Wheeler Yuta. Thus meaning Claudio Castagnoli wins the AEW World Championship, and Bryan Danielson, for now, is no longer a full-time active wrestler. Wheeler, what have you done? The wrestling rating was an 80. The segment was a 61. Sorry, the crowd was a 61. The segment was an 82. So it's up there with another one of Bryan's classics. Great chemistry between him and Claudio. Bryan's final run storyline has advanced and gained heat. And, yeah. Oh, well, Claudio Castagnoli has debuted a new power spot, so his psychology get a boost. But yeah, basically at the end, Yuta, what have you done? He can't believe what he's done. He's got his head in his hands. Bryan's all dejected. He's got his hands and his hips going, that's it. It's done. The full-time wrestling career of Bryan Danielson is over at Full Gear. And we will hit finish. We increased our pop in one region. Alright, so we had restrict. That's a bit annoying, getting one region benefiting for absolutely our best show. But yeah, overall you can see a lot better there because we had everyone basically riding good waves of momentum. And matches that may have struggled to, were iffy in the card here, would have been main events and the build up here. But yeah, obviously you've saw I've given Bryan a 2-year deal. Bryan will be a full-time competitor technically in the save, but for the storyline, Bryan be disappearing for a wee bit. So we'll address the locker room, and this time it'll be Claudio, Bryan, and we'll compliment them on a good performance. Both of them are pleased. No injuries, which is good. Financial report, 800,000 profit. Popularity, just in the southeast, but I don't understand that. We must have. I think it could be a case though, because this is on Triller TV and a few other places, it's not the most over in the world. I definitely highlighted it to be on every particular network, which we'll see in a minute. But yeah, let's do a media scrutiny. You've recently made a new signing, Valkyrie. What plans do you have for her? She'll have to work her way up a ladder. I'm quite intrigued to see how she does. That went down well with the locker room. Apparently Jeff Jarrett is taking on Dante Martin as a new protege. Might have mentioned that. I think it will definitely help benefit him. He made a new signing, Bobby Lashley. Again, there's no free rides in AEW. Samoa Joe was off his game. I'm sure it was a one-off with Samoa Joe. Mark Quinn is coming to the end of his deal while he's still with AEW. Of course, big part of the family. People are calling Full Gear a success. What is your view on the show? I think it was one of our best shows ever, to quote Tony Khan, as he always seems to do, but the roster should be very proud. Locker room's happy with that. So all positive from our scrum. I'm definitely going to double check it. I'm sure I did add every pay-per-view provider, because I put it in auto, and auto always selects all 4. So that's maybe something we need to work on going forward, is better distribution with our events, because that's an easy 1-point gain usually, in terms of how good our pay-per-views are always going to be. So let's just quickly have a look at show history. Yep, you can see there. It's probably about how many people are actually buying it, to be fair. I don't think that's not... I wouldn't say it's not accurate at all. It's probably actually double maybe what EW are getting in terms of it. You can see there, nobody bought it in Bleacher Report Live, Eurosport India, In Demand, Triller TV. So I maybe need better pay-per-view deals, but hey, that's fine. We still had a good show. And Claudio Castagnoli is wowing fans. But I really struck gold with the show. Anything else there? Not particularly. And here, Bryan Danielson says Mariah May talks well. Give her more promo time. And 243,000 buys. So, pay-per-view provider, we'll probably look into that one. But, as I say, we're in no massive rush. As I say, if we can just keep it over with good television, we'll get to big and then we can probably get a bigger pay-per-view deal for there. So that is it. We start a new era of AEW. That was me double checking to make sure I didn't have the Full Gear title eliminator. But we go into a new era with oh, it's vacant. Fuck. Well, I guess Athena's going to be a 2-time champion then. That's annoying. TNT champion. So at least we know that happens. I should have called her up beforehand. That's fine. Athena, you're going to be a replace. Can I place? I need to be Athena, so she'll be a 2-time champ. Oh well. Probably deserve it for that ROH run. There you go. Claudio Castagnoli. Prestige of the belt's 74 now. His popularity jump he started at 50 and we've got Claudio up to 62. So that is certainly very good. The good thing as well is, though, it is obviously the 25th, which means I believe Dynamite will be the 27th. Collision maybe next week's episode, the week after, where we just review obviously who progressed best in November. We'll obviously take a look at a few people. It really depends on where that Collision ends up. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got a lot of things going forward there. We've got the Continental Classic, the reign of Athena, what next for Mercedes, and Wheeler Yuta. What have you done? What does this mean for AEW's landscape on a whole? So take it easy. Remember to check out the Good Old Software forums, Fantasy Booker subreddit, twdb.com and bethebooker.net. Until then, take it easy. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.